Alright, people. Midweek report time. So, lot to get into, lot to preview. And oh my god, there is a lot to there is a hell of a lot to preview. There's a lot to talk about as well. We obviously got to talk about Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clarke. We obviously got to talk about Tim Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora. I see Nicolas Walters return to the ring last night, won a 10-round points decision. I want to just touch on this briefly. Nicolas Walters, when he was in his prime, which is, it's scary to think, was around about a decade ago. It was 24, yeah, it was 2014 because he lost to Rigondeaux in 2013. So it was 2014 thereabouts when Walters beat none other than Air. That was up at featherweight, mind you. Daenerys is bantamweight champion, or was up until a couple of years ago. So there you go. That's a weight jump and a half. But Walters was someone I really liked, the Axeman. He was a big puncher. You don't really get many of them down at that weight. He was exciting. He had that draw, which should have been unanimous. I cannot remember the guy's name now. Was it Jason Sosa who he had the draw with? Anyway, either way, it should have been unanimous. I think that was on the undercard of Ortiz versus Jennings. And then he was out of the ring for a year. Fought Lomachenko on somewhat short notice. I remember in the build-up to that fight, there was people saying that he was like overweight by, at the time it was 130 over, or was it 130? Might have been featherweight. I'm not sure, but anyway, at the time he was overweight by their standards. Made way for the fight, but it looked terrible. Quit after 7 rounds, and that was it. He was meant to make a comeback. I believe it was on the undercard of Crawford versus Indongo. Never did. Said he had the flu or something, and then that was it. We didn't see. That was 2017. That was it. Came back last year, and now he's on the comeback trail. He's 38 years old. I'm not expecting much. Nicolas Walters in his prime, in the featherweight or 130 pound division, or even lightweight. Well, he was never really lightweight, but he's in around that division. Yeah, I'm keen. I'm interested. I would love a prime Walters today, but we don't have that. He's spending all that time on it. I don't know. But Nicolas Walters made his return to the ring last night. I didn't see it. Not really interested in seeing it, but it's just a bit of news for those who didn't know. Nicolas Walters was in the ring. I think it's on Pro Box TV, so you might be able to find that fight. But let's just touch on this really briefly, because I seen this. Now, I'm not reporting this as fact. It's a rumour. There's always rumours in the world of boxing. There's always rumoured fights. There's always rumours doing the rounds. I saw this start to, I don't want to say it really took any steam, because I haven't seen any major sources reporting on it, and I haven't really seen, that much traction. But there is a rumour going around that Deontay Wilder is a free agent. Obviously, his last fight was over in Saudi against Joseph Parker. And, Al Heyman, as far as we're aware, had no involvement in that fight. Although I do believe Frank Sanchez, I'm not sure where he stands, because he did fight on PBC before. But it seemed as though, Wilder was on his own in that fight. It's rumoured that he's a free agent, and that could potentially be going to work with Eddie Hearn, of all people. Now, to say Wilder and Eddie Hearn, and again, I'm not reporting on this as it's true, I'm just saying this is the rumour, right? Eddie Hearn will basically, because we know Warren has options, and exercise those options on Zhilei Zhang, so potentially Zhilei Zhang could be the Queensberry fighter, and Matchroom could have Deontay Wilder as their fighter for the Matchroom versus Queensberry show. If that was the case, and given the fact that the two fights are likely to be, if they are, Wilder Zhang and Hrgovic Dubois, I mean, realistically, that whoever, those two fights could win whoever the show, if you know what I mean. Because, and I wouldn't rule out, you couldn't rule out both Matchroom guys if Wilder is a Matchroom guy. You couldn't rule out both Matchroom guys winning. You couldn't rule out both Queensberry guys winning. You couldn't rule out either or, to be honest with you. But Wilder and Eddie Hearn have had a less than cordial relationship, it's fair to say, over the years. Over many, many, many years, they have not really seen eye to eye. It's fair to say. But Eddie Hearn in the past has always been willing to put those differences aside. I mean, for God's sake, Billy Joe's dad was calling out Eddie Hearn years ago, and Billy Joe ended up going with Matchroom. May still be with Matchroom, I don't know, because Billy Joe, we're hearing come back, then we're not, then we're hearing it, then we're not, then we're hearing it, then we're not. It's just, it's one thing after another with Billy Joe Saunders. Still no idea when he's, going to have this comeback, but, that's a topic for another video. I've done enough for Billy Joe. I ain't going to talk about him until we hear some actual news on him. But that is the rumour mill doing the rounds. I Well, to be honest with you, listen, when David Haye and Derek Chisora start working together as fighter and manager, there really comes a point in boxing where you have to turn around and say, right, well, anything can happen now. Because that really, once they started working together, they were seemingly best buds. At that point, you have to turn around and say, boxing has beaten me in terms of what surprises it can give. Because that really, that really did it for me. It was like, well, you know what? I mean, I'm going to try and never get surprised again. Because after seeing that, and if you had told me after the He Glassed Me situation that, they'd be working together as manager and fighter, I would have said, get out of here, give me some of that alcohol because it's got to be strong. So after that, it's like, I'd never, just don't even be surprised anymore with stuff that could happen. With fighters signing for this promoter, that promoter, that network. Just don't even be surprised anymore. So that really did it for me. So could it happen? I don't know. The rumor mill is that fight's going to happen on the Yarde Beterbiev Dmitry Bivol card, which is a fantastic, that card, the Day of Reckoning card, for me was the best that they've done. But this will beat that. This is the best. If it goes as we are hearing it will, then yeah, it definitely trumps the Day of Reckoning card. It's amazing. In terms of cards that we have this weekend, and there are some good cards. Tim Tszyu is back in action. Now, I like Tim Tszyu. I think he's very talented. Likelihood is the winner will take on Crawford, which is even, Tim Tszyu Crawford is just like, yes. I'm not, now, don't think I'm disrespecting Fondora. I'm not going to write him off. He's very live. Obviously, going into this fight, Tim Tszyu was meant to be fighting Keith Thurman. That was, the opponent. They did the announcement, all that. And obviously, this is PBC's first show on Amazon Prime. So they wanted to go with Keith Thurman. I didn't like that fight, to be honest with you, and I've said that several times. I really didn't like that fight. I thought it was garbage because I thought Keith Thurman in his prime was not even a massive, really, 140-pounder or 147-pounder. But he's been inactive even prior to the injury. I mean, he's fought twice a year in 2019. That was the only time he did it since, I believe, 2014. Could have done it in 15 before. But for the most part, he's been so inactive, it's been just painful. So I was kind of like, and he's been injury ridden and injuries are flaring up again. And I was just like, you know what, no. I don't want to see Thurman versus Tszyu. I don't think it's a good fight. This fight, on the other hand, although I've never really rated Fondora, I've never really been too impressed with him. This is a better fight. It's a more competitive fight. And Tim Tszyu, to go from training for a 5'7" Keith Thurman to training for a 6'6" Fondora, in a matter of, a little over a fortnight, he's really had to get ready. That's gonna be tricky. Where Fondora, that's gonna be an interesting fight. It's gonna be a really interesting fight. It has a WBA or WBC, I should say, vacant super welterweight world title on the line, so it's an extra belt. It will now be at 154 as opposed to 155. Pound's not going to make that much of a difference, you'd imagine, but there you go. So that's it. That's the top of the bill. Rowley versus Pitbull. Pitbull should win that. Michael Zarafa versus Erislandy Lara for Lara's middleweight world title. Zarafa is that win over Kell Brook that loss, I should say, over Kell Brook aged actually not too bad, because Kell Brook won it, but he didn't look amazing in that fight. And then he goes on to beat Jeff Horn. Has gone on to have a couple of wins. So could he be live in there against Erislandy Lara? Erislandy Lara's got to be about 40 now, hasn't he? Doesn't have his age listed on BoxRec, but he's got to be pushing 40. And I genuinely believe he is the age he says he is. Lara, he doesn't look that old, like in terms of, you see like someone like Rigondeaux and Ortiz and you're like, really? Is that your age? Lara, I tend to believe it. Brian Mendoza's on the card. Julio Cesar Martinez, I like watching him. It's a pretty good card, to be fair. It's a lot of fights on. It's a pretty good card. I will definitely be keeping a close eye. I won't be staying up for it, but I'll be keeping a close eye on it, and I'll be reviewing some of the fights on Sunday morning. Now, I mistakenly said, because I just assumed it was on a Saturday, never assume, as I say, that Wardley versus Clarke was on a Saturday. It's actually on a Sunday, Easter Sunday, because obviously it's a bank holiday here in Ireland and in the UK. I don't know if the US get a bank holiday for Easter Monday, but we do. And depending on what company you work for, you get tomorrow off, Good Friday. I have it off. I'm going up in Newry. I have to get a UK SIM. Things have to be done. I'm going to pop it in one of the spare iPhones. So the UK SIM will just be, when I'm over in the UK living there, I'm going to keep my Irish number, but just, You need a UK number, put it like that. You really do. So I'm going up there tomorrow. But this fight card is on Sunday night. In terms of boxer shows, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking on paper, this is a really good card. Now, just because it looks good on paper doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into a good show. There have been plenty of shows I've seen from Warren, from Hearn, that on paper have looked really good. And they've been a bit lackluster. It's more so the fights just not delivering as opposed to the kind of event. Like on paper you have good fights, but in reality they don't turn out to be amazing. These look good. I will give a prediction and do a proper video on Wardley versus Clarke tomorrow because it deserves one. It really does. Marku versus Chris Congo. I like that fight. Chris Congo. I'll never forget Chris Congo when he fought on Fight Camp against Luther Klein. He looked brilliant in that fight. Then he fought McKinson. That loss hasn't aged terribly. McKinson's not bad. But he looked like a completely different fighter in there. He looked so good on Fight Camp. And against Marku, yeah, Marku against Dylan Moran last time around got a first round knockout. I wasn't the least bit surprised he did that to Dylan Moran. A few people were saying, oh, I wasn't the least bit surprised about that. I was expecting something similar. So him against Congo, that's going to be an interesting one. I would make Marku favourite. Marku certainly has a lot of fan applause from his native Albania. Absolutely crazy amount. So they will be getting behind it. They're probably going to fill the majority of this arena out. You know, in fact, actually, O2 is going to probably be quite full. A lot of them will be the Marku fans. Big ticket seller. Callum Simpson, as I said, good little prospect. Vidal Riley, Michael Lawal. Yeah, Lawal against Chamberlain didn't look good, but Chamberlain is a level above. Chamberlain's a level above both guys. I'd be picking Chamberlain over Vidal Riley. Riley is not bad. A lot of people have been, saying, oh, him against Chamberlain. I would make Chamberlain firm favourite over Vidal Riley, quite frankly. But I think Chamberlain is a level above both guys. So I think this fight, yeah, Riley should win. Wouldn't rule out being competitive, though. Babbage versus Robinson. Steve Robinson, I mean, why not? Just, why not? Alan Babbage, Steve Robinson, that will be a fun fight. That's what I will say. Alan Babbage, I always said, I love watching him. I know he's an accident waiting to happen, and that accident eventually happened. Probably will happen again. But god damn, he's fun to watch. And this fight right here has car crash written all over it. So I will be locked in on this. And Ben Whittaker, of course, as well. Say what you want to say about Ben Whittaker, the showboat, and people are viewing. People are watching him. People are keen. And people will be watching Ben Whittaker on Saturday night, 100%. I like Ben Whittaker, as I said. So, as I said, I don't mind it. Sometimes you're like, step on the gas and finish him. Just finish him. You just finish him. But I like the showboat and I like the confidence. I always said Ben Whittaker, when he was before he even turned pro, I said he's going to be a Marmite character. Some are going to love him. Some are going to hate him because they're going to see the arrogance. And some people don't like that. I don't necessarily mind it, because with Ben Whittaker, what's he going to do? Like, Ben Whittaker goes in and fully believes in himself. He has that confidence. It's like, that's better than going in and saying, I hope to get the job done, but let's just, let's see. No, Ben Whittaker believes it. I like that. In terms of the main event, Wardley versus Clarke, I like it. I think it's going to be a good fight. I will touch on that in a separate video. I people know already my thoughts on that fight, but I'll touch on it briefly in a separate video. Frank Warren has revealed that the Matchroom versus Queensberry 5v5 fight announcement press conference is scheduled for Monday the 15th of April in August. I will try and get over to that. I should get an email about it, but hopefully I will now. You see, I've jinxed myself and I won't. But hopefully I'll try and get over for that. I've never been to a press conference. I've been to all Queensberries. I've been to one Matchroom, but I've been to all Queensberry. And I've never been to a Saudi one. So that's going to be a new experience. It's going to be really good. So hopefully I can get to that. I'll be looking forward to seeing the announcement of the fighters and really dissect it and just see, like, okay, this is what we're going to get. Stuff like that. Subriel Matias will defend his IBF 140-pound title against Liam Paro on June the 15th in Puerto Rico. I love watching Subriel Matias. I think he's tremendously talented, entertaining. That could be a banana skin. I like Liam Paro. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a very good fighter. So again, Subriel Matias, say what you want to say about him. People act as though Subriel Matias, his resume is not that good. Well, if you're beating undefeated guys who are your mandatory, what more do you want to do? you know, like, and making them all quit. You know, people like Ergashev and people like that. A lot, these were undefeated. I think out of his last 5 fights, I think if they might have all. Now I know one didn't, but I think the rest might have all had unbeaten records, and they've all quit against Matias. I mean, this guy beats them into submission. It's absolute. I love watching Subriel Matias. And as I've said, he may very well be my favourite fighter, just purely from an entertainment point of view and to watch. Subriel Matias, I think he's just value for money. Eddie Hearn has really done himself well there, getting him on. But Liam Paro is very good. Don't sleep on Liam Paro. He's a very, very good fighter. Very good fighter. Christian Mebel, I think I always get this guy's name wrong. He fought the undercard of Beterbiev versus Smith. He will be fighting Mark Heffron. Good luck with that, Mark Heffron. That's what I will say. It could be a bit of spot of bother there. On May 25th in Canada, Arslanbek Makhmudov versus Junior Fa. They both took L's on the day of reckoning. Will also be on the undercard. I mean, Arslanbek Makhmudov trying to get his way back onto those Saudi shows. He should be beating Junior Fa. If he's not beating Junior Fa, well then, you know, we got a problem. A big problem. The Billum Smith Riakporhe rematch for the WBO World Cruiserweight World title is set for June the 15th as well in London. Riakporhe told TalkSports he confirmed that the possibility of Buatsi versus Yarde on the same card, but not sure if it will happen. Yes, so obviously we were hearing that Yarde Buatsi was essentially a done deal right about this time last week. And look, I said it in the video. I was like, oh, you know, I'm happy because obviously I want to see that fight. It's a good fight. It's a very good fight. And then but I also said in that video, I was like, would Warren not want Yarde in that Matchroom versus Queensberry? Because he is better than, maybe the exception of Callum Smith, and that's a maybe. He is better than the Matchroom heavyweights if you're looking at, no disrespect, Spider Richards and Callum Smith, people like that. I would sooner have Yarde. I would have more faith in Yarde than I would those guys. Certainly now with Callum Smith after that fight with Beterbiev. So would Warren not want to use him? That's what I was thinking. And now we're hearing that it may be Smith versus Yarde on the day of reckoning on the Beterbiev Bivol show. For me, that's a better fight. That's a better fight than having, say, Craig Richards against Willie Hutchinson or Craig Richards against Zach Parker or Carol Atauma. No disrespect to those guys, but Yarde is, we know Yarde, good fighter. And listen, I think that the Buatsi fight should, even if Yarde loses, quite frankly, I think it would always be there. Because there's interest in that fight. And Yarde gets himself a couple of wins, gets himself back in. Because really, again, I go and I talk again about how kind of short-sighted in the grand scheme of things this was. The move to Sky was for Lawrence Okoli and for Joshua Buatsi. You know, Lawrence Okoli especially, he's fighting now in Poland, fighting for a Bridgerweight world title against Rozanski. And he was brought in, you know, ostensibly to be the face of Sky. How did that work? Didn't work too well, did it? And the way he left Eddie Hearn, it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, you know, and most of us would be very much pro-fighter in that scenario, but that way it was handled was completely wrong by Lawrence Okoli. And with Buatsi, you know, he handled it a lot more dignified. I believe it was the fact that he was saying that, you know, he'd rather be on Sky instead of on an app that people have to download, and, you know, that's fair enough. But again, for me, that's quite short-sighted, because sometimes you could be in a situation where you're maybe not happy, or maybe you don't see a situation with a certain promoter, or that's even in life. Like if you're in a job and you think, this is crap, I don't see change. You could say, well, hang on a minute, you don't see it in the immediate future, but it is coming. You just got to be patient. If you look a little bit further down, that person is retiring, that person's moving up, and once they move up, you know, talk about a job now, it'll flip. Because if you leave, you know, the saying goes, better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. If you just leave, you could go somewhere worse, and you could be kind of back to square one, so to speak. I've seen that happen in jobs before with people where they've, you know, left thinking this is never going to change. 3 months later, something has changed, it's much better, and they're like, crap, I wish I'd stayed, you know. And I think with Buatsi, it's like if you had stayed on the zone, because now those Saudi shows are on the zone, they're on TNT sometimes, they're on Sky, they're all being joined together, so everyone's going to see you. You're not just on an app, you're on Sky, you're on TNT. And you would be probably Matchroom's first choice to go in there against, say, a Anthony Yarde or, you know, someone like that. So for me, sometimes you do have to think further down the road. You're like, right, this is the situation I'm in now. And again, I'm not someone who advocates being loyal to a promoter, but you look at the way, and again, I'm not trying to have a dig at Ben Shalom, but you look and you only had to see what was in front of you with Shalom early on with Sky to think that this needs a lot of work. And would I rather be on something that needs a lot of work and that could be maybe a 3-4 year job? They might pay me well now, but a lot of work's going to be needed. Or do I stay where I am, better the devil with the potential in a year, 18 months, things could be a lot better. That's what I'm getting at with that one. In terms of someone who things don't appear to be much better, CONOR BENN. The British Boxing Board of Control won their appeal along with UKDA against the National Anti-Doping Panel's decision to clear CONOR BENN. CONOR BENN went straight to social media, says work ethic unmatched, block out the noise and stay focuses. Yeah, focuses. Like the Ford Focus. Look, I've said it once, I'll say it again about this whole CONOR BENN situation. The people want to know exactly what's happened. They don't want to see someone get off based upon technicalities. Because that, I think, is just wrong. I do. If you've done something, if something is in your system that shouldn't be there, we need to find out what. It shouldn't be a case of, you get off on a technicality because, that doesn't explain why that's still there. And the way Ben handled it, I'm not going to labour the point with this, was wrong. It's as simple as. He was giving it all that. Eddie Hearn was egging him on, no pun intended, and it left a bad taste in people's mouths. And I've seen some people speculate that maybe now that this has been dragged on again, maybe the likes of the Zone, Eddie Hearn would be saying, can we just get a resolution on this? Or whatever we need to do, can we just get this? Can we just get a resolution? Because to be honest with you, if CONOR BENN went now tomorrow and just said, right, I'm going to cooperate, here's the dossier, here's all that stuff, I reckon that the board would just say, take culpability, we banned you from March last year, we'll backdate that ban from March last year to May this year, then all's forgiven, everyone's good, nothing more has to happen, and we can just put this whole situation to bed. I reckon that's what should be done. Will it be done? Just who knows? Who knows? It's gone on that long. You just kind of look and you're just like, again, and look, I'm not saying that because it's it's a real situation of this again that they should just be like just write the whole case off. No, but we just want clarification, but we just aren't getting it. Maybe we will now. Who knows? Jose Ramirez will face Rhesus Bartolome. Nothing against Rhesus Bartolome personally, but God, he has had some of the worst fights I have ever seen in terms of just entertainment. Some of them have been painful. Former champion, I believe, at 140 or 135. It was one of the, I think it was 140. Virgil Ortiz will clash with Thomas Delorme. Is he still knocking around? I mean, I like Jose Ramirez, but that could go one or two ways, that fight. But yeah, Ortiz versus Delorme. Really? Thomas Delorme now at this point, is he still knocking around? Wasn't he knocked out on a Matchroom show a couple of years ago by, was it Robbie Davis or someone? Yeah. WBO have sanctioned Liam Williams versus Oscar Valdez for the interim WBO title on Friday night. Oh yeah, I forgot about that fight. It's going to be a good little scrap actually. That's going to be a really, really good little scrap as well. I see here, Crawford versus Tszyu is potentially in discussions. Now, Tim Tszyu has to get past, and this is what I don't like. I don't like it when people are, Tim Tszyu is a fight against Fondor. Focus on him. I really don't like it when it's like, oh yeah, we're getting ready for Tim Tszyu Crawford after this, and we're going to do this. We get the like, hang on a minute. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. I should say, don't count your chickens before they hatch. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. Needs to get through tomorrow, or it needs to get through Saturday night. Needs to get through that fight, and then we can see. Tyson Fury's been uploading a lot of pics or videos of himself hitting the pads. Now, I don't recall Fury in the run-up to previous fights doing that as much as we've seen in the run-up to this Usyk fights. I could be wrong on that, but Tyson Fury is really, pads, boom, 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 look how sharp I am, this, that, and the other. And he does look in good shape, and he is looking sharp enough on the pads. But as I said several times, and I've said it in these videos, I've said it several times, looking good in the pads is one thing. Looking good in the fight on fight night is a very, very different thing. And I'm someone who doesn't particularly like the pads. I don't really read too much into the pads, to be honest with you, because it's not really as realistic as what you're going to get on fight night. The shield is way more like that. I prefer that. You can't really look as good on the Shield because you're really focusing for power more so than anything else. You can also focus on perfection as well with them. But I prefer that to pads. Look, Fury is looking in better shape. He's been in the gym a lot more. He's been training probably non-stop since the Ngannou fight, so he is going to look better. I think Usyk is still going to look good on fight night as well. Am I expecting a better Fury than what we got against Ngannou? 100%. But when's the last time Fury looked good? Dylan White, in my opinion. And even some people don't even think he looked too good in that fight. So if you would say when's the last time he really looked good, Wilder, the rematch, 4 years ago. You're not going to be the same fighter you were 4 years ago, especially when you're getting older, especially when you've not lived the cleanest lifestyle. So a part of me wonders, this, Fury's in good shape. Is this kind of, his way of telling himself that, I'm back to my old self, I'm in good shape, the body is working the way I want it to, I look sharp on the pads. And as I've said, that's all well and good looking sharp on the pads, but what happens on fight night? Come what fight night, will that sharpness be there? Will those reactions be there? Will the legs be there, crucially? If the answer is no, or not the same to any of them, it could be a long night for Tyson Fury. A very long night. Because Tyson Fury is going to need to be, Usyk as well, is going to need to be at his best, and Fury is going to need to be at his best. You can't just undo all the damage of the last 10, 15 years, because it's not just that time out of the ring for those 3 years where he was, ballooning away, drinking, taking all kinds of God only knows what. It's all together. He's always done this. He's always fluctuated in fights. And me and Dell, we spoke about this in our live stream on Tuesday night. The most consistent we ever saw with Tyson Fury in terms of shape, in terms of how he looked in the ring, was when he was with Peter. And I've got a lot of respect for Peter Fury. I have an absolute bag of respect. And Peter Fury is a boxing man true and true. And I think that Peter Fury is what Tyson Fury needs. What Tyson needs isn't, all this, that, and the other. It's not, a new style. It's not this, it's not that. It's Peter Fury. Peter Fury gets something done. And you know what something is short for. But Peter Fury gets something done. People say, well, look at Hughie. Hughie is not as talented. Manuel Stewart is, for my money, one of, if not the greatest trainers of all time. Did he make a world champion out of Andy Lee with him training him? No. There are plenty of fighters who've gone through the doors of Kronk. Manny Stewart improved them, but he couldn't do miracles. He couldn't. Same with Angie Dundee, Eddie Foch, etc. Sometimes you have to look at the fighter you have in front of you and say, do you have the talent? I can bring you to a certain level with the talent you have, but it doesn't matter who's training you. You're not going to go past that level. It might sound harsh, but that's the way it is. I think was it Freddie Roach refused to listen to it. Was it Eddie Foch? When Eddie Foch was like, look, this is it. And Freddie Roach continued, and obviously he's in a bad way now. Well, he's not the worst, but you know what I mean. He could be a bit better. That's what I mean by trying to be like, oh, what, like he didn't do. Hughie isn't this, like, well, Hughie has his limits. We've known that for a while. So there's only so much Peter could do. And I don't even think a new trainer could really help Hughie Fury out. Who is back to the ring now. He's going to be fighting on a Sky show and a GBM show. And I hear Adam Smith is now working with GBM. Which, look, Adam Smith, as I've said, as a commentator, he wouldn't be my absolute favourite. But when you need someone for those dramatic moments, you would call on Adam Smith. That's what you'd call on for. When you have those big, like Joshua when he got dropped against Ruiz, Adam Smith, yeah, that's the guy you want. But for just the generic, like the whole rest of it, you'd want a bit more life. You'd want a Jim Lampley. You'd want a Jim Lampley. Jim Lampley is amazing. You want a Reg Guttridge. They are gold standards. Jim want Reg Guttridge is just like, that is the combination that you will not get. The chemistry those guys had, it was... If you ever watch Tyson Holyfield, the first fight, I'll only ever rewatch that on the, because it's on YouTube, the Sky broadcast, because Watt and Reg Guttridge they were phenomenal on that broadcast. They really were. Two of them just phenomenal. They really are. For boxing in the UK commentary teams, it'd be hard pushed to get anyone to come close to those two. Just phenomenal. That's what I gotta say on that. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button. It's probably gone on a bit long. I will try and timestamp this one as well. But I'll leave it there, peeps. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.